我毕业多少时了？
我是万物之灵，给宇宙万物。
One of the things that we'd actually thought about was to present one of the most loved pieces of Dorian's work, the Charge of the Goddess, in different languages, and just to see how it would actually work out as far as the emotional quality of the charge and how it transpired in different languages. In 1979 I was initiated in England, although I was living in the Netherlands even then, and I wasn't really aware of Dorian's material because when people were initiated in the 70s, we didn't actually, we just had rituals. We didn't really look at books of shadows, not like people seem to do today. We just did our rituals, and of course at a given point there'd be cakes and wine, or there'd be something we called the charge, and that was probably the first time that I became aware of Dorian's work, although not really something that was attributed to even to her at that time. It was just a piece of text, Obviously it wasn't just a piece of text, but as I say, it was during the ritual, usually what we call the Esbat, the monthly full moon rituals, and it usually designated the moment when we were all asked to listen to the words of the Great Mother, and that's exactly how the charge starts, of course. Since then I've used the charge also in my own circles, and over the years it's become perhaps one of the best loved pieces of Wiccan texts that we know, and it's been translated in quite a number of languages. In fact, that was the reason that we decided to do this project, to see what Dorian's influence is in Europe, but also to see how many of her books have been translated. Of course I realised immediately that the charge was one of the most translated, if not all the books have been translated. Certainly the charge has been translated into most of the major European languages. But when we were doing this CD, it also occurred to me that, of course, the charge as we know it also has its own history, and although many people perhaps believe Dorian Valiente actually wrote it, it is in fact a collection of various texts and from various sources as well. So the best we can do is actually say that it could be or can be attributed to Dorian Valiente. For many people, the charge has become a very sacred piece of Wiccan liturgy. It's basically read or recited by the High Priestess during what we call drawing down the moon. And drawing down the moon itself as a ritual is something we don't really know that much about. There are references certainly to Roman ritual. I think it was in Leyland's book about sorcery that he actually mentions something that looks like the drawing down the moon ritual. But when I was initiated, as I said, it was much more a case of doing the drawing down the moon ritual, and the High Priestess, my High Priestess at the time, who would then recite the charge. I've seen quite a lot of people, their reactions to drawing down the moon and listening to the charge, and it's quite amazing. It's almost as if people are transformed and transferred to a different world. I know we talk about between the worlds, but quite often as a priestess recites the charge, people really do see a noticeable change, either in their eyes or body language. Somehow or other the charge seems to invoke images of perhaps long lost times, we don't know, but something that is not quite of this world. The strange thing is that people have said it's Dorian Valiente's work, but of course this is not actually true. It can be attributed to Doreen, but the main sources are quite a number, and certainly people have certainly recently looked a little bit more about the source material. If we look strictly from a scholarly point of view, from an academic point of view, then the charge appears in printed form in Gerald Gardner's book Witchcraft Today, and this was the version printed, well, probably the first edition in 1954. To quote him, he says, or he writes, "Before initiation, a charge is read beginning, 'Listen to the words of the Great Mother, who of old was also called among men Artemis, Astarte, Diona, Melusine, Aphrodite, and by many other names. At mine altars, the youth of Lacedaemon made due sacrifice. Once a month, and better it be when the moon is full, meet in some secret place, and adore me, who am queen of all the magics. For I am a gracious goddess. I give joy on earth, certainty not faith, while in life and upon death, peace unutterable, rest and the ecstasy of the goddess, nor do I demand aught in sacrifice." That's all we hear or read of the charge from Gerald Gardner's book. In other words, he doesn't cite the whole text, as you probably realise it's only a portion of the text, and he attributes it to a piece of text which would be recited before an initiation. He doesn't even link it to drawing down the moon. He literally says that it's a charge in the old Roman word times. There would be a summoning, and in this particular case it would be to call the Great Mother. In 1971, which is the next literary source, in What Witches Do by Stuart Farrer, there we can find a full version which many of us will actually recognise. Stuart discusses the origin of the charge and attributes the first part almost wholly to Aradia, or the Gospel of the Witches, by Charles G. Leyland from 1899. And it begins, "Now, when Aradia had been taught to work all witchcraft, how to destroy the evil race of oppressors, she imparted it to her pupils, and said unto them, When I shall have departed from this world, whenever ye have need of anything, once in the month, and when the moon is full, ye shall assemble in some desert place, or in a forest all together join, to adore the potent spirit of your queen, my mother, great Diana. She who fain would learn all sorcery, yet has not won its deepest secrets, them my mother will teach her, in truth all things as yet unknown. And ye shall all be freed from slavery, and so ye shall be free in everything, and as a sign that ye be truly free, ye shall be naked in your rights, both men and women also. This shall last until the last of your oppressors shall be dead, and ye shall make the game of Benevento, extinguishing all the lights, and after that shall hold your supper thus." So this was from 1971, and clearly from Aradia, from Charles Leyland. But in fact, this is already a later version, because if we take aside the literary examples, there were of course in Gerald Gardner's own Book of Shadows versions available. In her book, The Rebirth of Witchcraft from 1989, Doreen writes about the Book of Shadows, and in the chapter working with Gerald she actually writes the following. Gerald's reaction was, "Well, if you think you can do any better, go ahead." I accepted the challenge and set out to rewrite the Book of Shadows, cutting out the Crowleyanity as much as I could, and trying to bring it back to what I felt was, if not so elaborate as Crowley's phraseology, at least our own and in our own words. I felt the words from Aradia qualified in this respect, so I retained them as the basis for my new version of the charge, which I originally wrote in verse as follows. "Mother, darksome and divine, mine the scourge and mine the kiss, the 5-point star of love and bliss, here I charge ye in this sign. Bow before my spirit bright, Aphrodite, Arianrod, lover of the horned god, mighty queen of witchery and night. Diana, Bridget, Melusine, am I named of old by men, Artemis and Ceridwen, hell's dark mistress, heaven's queen. Ye who ask me of a boon, ye who in some hidden shade lead my dance in greenwood glade by the light of the full moon. Dance about my altar stone, work my holy magistry, ye who are fain of sorcery, I bring ye secrets yet unknown. No more shall ye know slavery, who tread my rounds the Sabbath night, come ye all naked to the right, in sign ye be truly free. Keep ye my mysteries in mirth, heart joined to heart and lip to lip, 5 are the points of fellowship that bring ye ecstasy on earth. No other law but love I know, by naught but love I may be known. All that liveth is my own, from me they come, to me they go. But what was that particular text? What was it that Doreen found so full of Crowleyanity? On the website Sacred Texts, we can find the actual Gardnerian Book of Shadows from 1949, and in fact that is also where the following text is found. The charge is then actually called Lift Up the Veil, and it's dated 1949. It's also called or referred to as Levita Veslis or Levita Vestris. Probably Vestris is more correct, simply because it means clothed in Latin. At least that's what I found out. It starts with the Magus. Listen to the words of the Great Mother, who of old was also called among men, Artemis, Astarte, Diona, Melusine, Aphrodite, Ceridwen, Diana, Arianrod, Bride, and by many other names. The High Priestess calls. At mine altars the youth of Lacedaemon in Sparta made due sacrifice. Whenever ye have need of anything, once in the month, and better it be when the moon is full, ye shall assemble in some secret place, and adore the spirit of me, who am queen of all witcheries and magics. There ye shall assemble, ye who are fain to learn all sorcery, yet have not won its deepest secrets. To these will I teach things that are yet unknown. And you shall be free from slavery, and as a sign that you be really free, ye shall be naked in your rights, both men and women, and ye shall dance, sing, feast, make music, and love, all in my praise. There is a secret door that I have made to establish the way to taste, even on earth, the elixir of immortality. Say, let ecstasy be mine, and joy on earth even to me, for I am a gracious goddess. I give unimaginable joys on earth, certainty, not faith, while in life, and upon death, peace unutterable, rest and ecstasy, nor do I demand aught in sacrifice. Magus continues, hear ye the words of the star goddess. The High Priestess follows, I love you, I yearn for you, pale or purple, veiled or voluptuous. I, who am all pleasure, and purple and drunkenness of the innermost senses, desire you. Put on the wings, arouse the coiled splendour within you. Come unto me, for I am the flame that burns in the heart of every man, and the core of every star. Let it be your inmost divine self, who art lost in the constant rapture of infinite joy. Let the rituals be rightly performed with joy and beauty. Remember that all acts of love and pleasure are my rituals. So let there be beauty and strength, leaping laughter, force and fire by within you. And if thou sayest, I have journeyed unto thee, and it availed me not, Rather shalt thou say, I called upon thee, and I waited patiently, and lo, thou wast with me from the beginning, for they that ever desire me shall ever attain me, even to the end of all desire. So this was the version that Doreen found in Joel Gardner's Book of Shadows. There are in fact quite a number of sources which can be traced back to Aleister Crowley. The Levita Vestis or Vestris does seem to have been derived from Crowley's channeled work in the Book of the Law. This was published in The Equinox in Volume 1, Number 7 in London in 1912, and also in Number 10, London 1913, and in Volume 3, Number 3, The Equinox of the Gods, London 1936, quite a lot later in fact. But also in Thelma, The Holy Books, London 1909, Volume 3, and there's a booklet in Pasadena in California in 1938. There are certain sentences which I think most of us will actually recognise as being really the heart of the charge. For example, one of the most recognisable is from the Book of Law, number 58. I give unimaginable joys on earth, certainty not faith, while in life upon death, peace unutterable, rest, ecstasy, nor do I demand aught in sacrifice. And of course, the section when we read, I love you, I yearn to you, pale or purple, veiled in voluptuousness. Later, of course, Doreen did rewrite and rework the charge. In a recent book, David Rankin and Sarita Neste have written about the charge in a chapter called The Charge of the Goddess, Lift Up the Veil Charge. And this is in their new book, or one of their recent books, Wicca Magical Beginnings, from 2008. They write, the Charge of the Goddess and its precursor Lift Up the Veil Charge have played a huge role in the Wiccan tradition as the inspired words found at the heart of ceremonies. Like Wicca itself, they draw from a number of sources to produce a beautiful and effective synergy. I would recommend anybody who is really looking for the sources for the charge to read this book, and certainly this particular chapter called Adore the Spirit in Me. It's interesting to see also now in recent times how many English versions there are of the charge. If we just Google on internet the Charge of the Goddess, we'll find many, many different versions, including one from Starhawk that's made a rather more feminist version, even more than what Doreen Valenti did. And of course many people have altered the text, made it slightly longer, made it slightly shorter. So when we start looking at the English text now, we can see there has been almost a moulding of the charge to the present situation within Wicca itself. And for many people, there does seem to have been almost a move towards being politically correct. Of course, the sentence, at mine altars the youth of Lacedaemon made due sacrifice, the original version, has been completely scrapped. And the later version, the youth of Lacedaemon in Sparta, has been completely omitted simply because it just didn't make sense. As we know, Lacedaemon is rather like saying England in London, for example. So there have been things which have definitely been discarded, and things which perhaps people have also put in to emphasise the more ecological side of the goddess, the greenness, and the fact that as we're drawing down the moon and listening to the words of the goddess, the charge is used to trigger off many emotions, and of course everybody will then hear the words of the goddess in whichever way they want to interpret and use it really for scrying purposes. And this is when we talk or hear about the more trance versions of drawing down the moon, and when the charge has been used literally to trigger off those emotions and those particular channeling or trance sessions. But for me, I think I still remember the very, very early days when we never knew where they actually came from. They were just the words of the goddess. And they reminded us of a time when there was no internet. There was no internet when I was initiated anyway, but no telephones, no television. And reminded us of a time when, in silence, when the moon is full, we can really hear the words of the goddess.
Vi agora as palavras
我是万物之灵，
500 antigos
宇宙万物之
Geheimnis
神，在